Hello, this is The Productive Writer, episode 5, and I'm your host, Sean McLachlan. Now, we're going to be doing something a little different today. For the first 4 episodes, we've been doing writing exercises, and I've been talking about various writing techniques and how to improve your word count and that sort of thing. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the business of writing. I'm what's called a hybrid writer. I do books both through traditional publishing houses with a contract and with an agreement for writing for an advance on royalties or a simple flat payment. And I've done various books for UK and US publishers. I'm also what's called an indie writer, meaning I publish my own stuff onto Amazon and Kobo and Barnes & Noble and iBooks and all those other online vendors. Now, I have found that the most effective thing for me personally is to publish my fiction as an indie author and my nonfiction through the traditional publishing houses. There's various reasons for that, which I can get into in later videos. That makes me a hybrid writer because I do a little bit of both. Now, we are in the second, or at least the second month now of a horrible global pandemic. This is nearing the end of my 6th week of lockdown here in Madrid. And a massive global economic recession is about to swamp over us. Since we've been locked down, we haven't really been able to spend much money lately. We haven't really noticed it, but it's going to hit hard. If any independent business owner out there knows exactly what I'm talking about. So, how is this going to affect the publishing industry? Well, for traditional publishing, it's going to be a slaughter fest. I'm not gonna give it to you any other way. It's going to be really bad. A lot of small and mid-list publishers are going to go out of business, leaving their authors high and dry. A lot of magazines are going to go out of business. And unfortunately, I think that some of the major publishers may go out of business too, or they will be bought up by other publishers. I think a lot of people's contracts are going to be canceled. They've already had to push the entire book season up to another season, so everybody's books are getting delayed. It's a mess. And a lot of authors are really going to get hurt from this. So it's bad news all around. It's also bad news in the long term for publishers because one of their major distribution channels, booksellers, are going to be hurting really bad too. A lot of indie booksellers are going to go out of business. Bookstore chains that have been struggling for years may also go out of business. So it's a big problem. I personally am really upset about a lot of bookstores under threat of annihilation. I love going to bookstores. So I've already promised myself that when lockdown ends, I'm going to make the round of all my favorite bookstores and buy a lot of books. So once their lockdown ends, Desperate Literature here in Madrid is going to get a bunch of money. When I go back to England, Blackwell's in Oxford and Houseman's Books in London are going to get a lot of my money. So is Librairie des Colons in Tangier, and so is the American University Bookshop in Cairo. Because I love those bookstores, and I really hope that they all survive. Will they? I'm not so sure. Which brings me to the main subject that I have right now, which is indie publishing. Now, if you're watching this series, you probably know a little bit about indie publishing already, where you make your own book, get it edited, you get a professional cover, and you put it up on Amazon and various other online vendors, and you get a cut. Now, I think, and there seems to be a lot of market data to support this, that this is going to be the good time for indie writers. Why do I say that? Couple of reasons. 1, reduced competition. 2, increased demand. First off, let's go to the reduced competition. Brick and mortar bookstores are not open. Some of them, luckily, have online websites now where you can order books from them, and I highly suggest that you do so. Support your local indie bookshops. I'm going to be ordering from Desperate Literature real soon now. But there's nothing to avoid the fact that there is fewer venues for traditionally published books at the moment. There is a paper shortage currently in the United States because all of their paper comes from China, and that's not being sent. And there's no place to distribute printed books anyway. There's going to be a lot of returns on these books once there's a chance for the bookstores to return books, and there is just not really very many venues at the moment for traditionally published books, unless you buy them online. There's also the price problem. People are wary of spending a lot of money right now because things are economically uncertain. Even if you haven't lost your job, you might lose your job. And so people are reducing their discretionary income. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't want to spend money on entertainment. Venues like Netflix are doing very well during this whole thing. So is Amazon Prime and all of those. Now, with ebook sales, there has been a marked increase. I have seen an increase in my own sales. Interestingly enough, although my print sales for my indie published books has always been a very small fraction of my total sales, those have more than doubled in the past month. And talking to other indie writers, I've heard the same thing. There is a demand. There's reduced competition because traditional publishers are struggling to get their books to market. And sadly, there's actually reduced competition from other indie writers. I am hearing a lot of moaning on the writing boards and the Facebook groups. Oh, I can't write. I'm too stressed. Oh, I'm so depressed about the world situation. I don't feel like writing a single line today. Well, write anyway. If you're a writer, the best thing you can do to get yourself through tough times is to write. If you want a career in writing, or if you want to keep an existing career in writing, the best thing you can do in tough times is to write more. And I suggest you look at my previous video about increasing your word count. That'll help. So demand is up for ebooks. There's a rise in sales all across the board, and especially indie ebooks. And why is that? Because independent ebooks tend to be priced lower than traditionally published ebooks. I know several people who are traditionally published with various big publishers, and their ebooks go for $12.99, the same as a trade paperback, or at the very least $8.99. Whereas my ebooks go for $2.99 or $4.99. Now I get 70% royalties. They get 6% royalties or 8% royalties. So I make more per ebook, even though my ebook is a fraction of the cost. Now, the consumer, worried about their pocketbook, looking for some entertainment, is going to be much more willing to take a chance on a little-known writer or a writer they've never tried before if their ebooks are $2.99 rather than $12.99. Say, why should I buy a $12.99 ebook? The traditional publishers have priced themselves out of the market by insisting on having inflated prices for ebooks. This is our chance. If you're an independent writer, or if you're thinking of becoming an independent writer, this is the time to get your stuff out there. I myself have been increasing production on my own work, while at the same time needing to support myself and my family with my traditional publishing, and also my, well, not so much traditional publishing, but my ghostwriting. Because I'm also seeing an increased demand for ghostwriting for midlist publishers and production companies that want to indie publish their own stuff. So there is, to recap, less competition. The bookstores are closed, and that's a bad thing. I'm not celebrating this at all because I love bookstores. And the traditional publishers are struggling, and they are going to continue to struggle for at least a couple of years. It's going to take a while for them to recover from this. And a lot of indie writers have thrown in the towel, and they're not writing for the duration, which I think is extremely foolish. But there's also increased demand because people want to be entertained. They want to be entertained for an affordable price. And they have money to do this, at least to the level of buying some indie ebooks. Because think of the competition. There's no competition. They can't go to the movies. They can't go out to restaurants. They can't go to theme parks. They can't travel. And while their discretionary expenditures have gone way down because of economic uncertainty, the percentage that's left that can be gone to books has actually increased. So, if you're considering indie writing, I would suggest that you get into it now. If you are an indie writer already, I suggest upping your word count. I suggest getting in on it and doing as much as possible, while keeping quality, of course, and get it edited and get a professional cover and get it out now, because I have seen, and my friends have seen, a big increase in demand for ebooks. And interestingly enough, indie print books are selling now too. I'm not the only one who's doubled my sales of print books. I've talked to a lot of indie authors who have, because there are those bookstore lovers who still want the feel of paper in their hands. And suddenly they're taking a chance on buying from people like me when they never had before. My paperback sales were minimal before this, and now they're actually getting to be a noticeable percentage of my income, and that's really nice. So one good thing about doing this is that doing indie writing is that you can be quick on the draw. You can write some books in the next few months and get them out, and the market forces are still going to be the same 6 months from now as they are now. And people will be out of lockdown, but there's still going to be the recession. In fact, it's going to get worse. Traditional publishing is going to be in a tailspin. So you have the chance to move quickly. Traditional publishing can't move quickly because it's giant corporate juggernauts, often owned by larger corporations, and they just can't adjust to market forces as quickly as individuals like you and I can. So get out there and write. That's all I had for today, and next time I'm going to come back with some more actual writing advice. So in the meantime, work hard, don't despair. Now is a good time to be an indie writer. And that's it. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, send some comments if you agree or disagree with what I say in this video. If you have anything to add, please put it in the comments, and please share. Get the word out about this. I'm putting up 20 years of writing experience absolutely free on the internet. I want to help my fellow writers. I want everyone to succeed at this game. One of the things you can do that is to keep on writing. See you next time.